let's make sure to note the power differential that has been a part of a lot of youth and adult partnerships. Sometimes when youth participate in advocacy spaces, it's expected that they only share their stories, but not necessarily their ideas for change. This is similar to how often people of color may be asked to share their experiences, but not given seats at the table to make real change.
When I was in a group home, the police was always called all the time, no matter if it was an argument or a fight. It was an automatic 911 call. To me, it felt like a setup. It felt like staff didn't care if I was arrested or not. Instead of helping to address the issue, they'd rather see me locked up.
I so understand what your frustration with this. It's so frustrating for me as well. I started out as a staff at a group home, and now I'm currently an administrator at another group home. So I definitely get what you're saying.
They may understand, but the reality is many that don't have lived experience can't fully get what it's like. Being a group home staff doesn't always mean understanding foster youth perspective.
But one thing we have to remember is that the police keep all of us safe. And although we don't want youth to end up incarcerated, the police play a role in ensuring that crises are immediately addressed. I think the question is whether there's a way to call the police and not have it result in arrests.
So hard pause. This is where it becomes even more clear that this person may not recognize the power and privilege that they hold. Making generalized or all statements regarding the police can minimize the experience of Black, Brown, and Indigenous people who've been victims to historic and current police violence. Now the adult partner may truly have only positive experience with the police, which is a great thing. But stating that police keep all people safe is actually an example of colorblindness.
Hold up. They may keep you safe. They damn sure don't keep me safe.
That's two youth speaking to not having such great experiences with law enforcement. Now would be a great time for the other partners to affirm the youth's experience and ask them how they feel crisis de-escalation should look in group homes.
I definitely understand the relationship between some of our young people and law enforcement, but I think it's important that we not see all police officers the same. And to make sure that our youth are being met with well-trained and good officers, especially when the young person in crisis is exhibiting signs that they can be de-escalated.
Well, this response was a little disappointing. Countering the youth's feelings about the police while telling them that not all police officers are the same is invalidating as hell. Regardless of whether we agree, we can't ignore the impact that over-policing has had and continues to have on communities of color. Yeah, this meeting really isn't looking like it's going good at this point. There's also a little bit of mediocrity going on here as well. Shouldn't all youth experience well-trained and good officers regardless of their behavior? Whoever deserves to be greeted by a bad cop? Also, structural racism is the word of the day. Racism within law enforcement is not just demonstrated through their officers, but also through the policies and practices of policing departments across the nation. That means that regardless of good officers within the force, and there are many, the issue is institutional. Well-intended officers are all forced to align or assimilate to practices that have long harmed communities of color. Again, the adult partner's inability to grasp more structural forms of racism is showing, and it's harmful AF. But that's just me. What do y'all think?
Coming across are real safety issues and the need to decrease harm done in placements, as well as the over arrest of youth in foster care.
Okay, so this triggered me a little bit. Who do the partners believe are doing the harm? In foster care, there tends to be an assumption that youth in care are troubled kids with behavioral issues. However, when looking deeper, we often find that youth are being treated as troubled from the jump, regardless of their behaviors. This partner's words hits as if the youth are the problem and not inadequate support with placement.
Situations where I've seen an all-out brawls by a gang of youth.
Using gang when describing use of color is coded language, an example of covert racism because of its negative connotation and common association with Black and brown people. Stay woke.
And in those situations, I had to know what to do about it. So the police are essential. However, I don't want you to automatically be arrested unless they did something wrong.
Are the police essential, or do you need to learn how to address and de-escalate?
Maybe we should also talk to police officers about how to better support us.
A well-intended suggestion. However, placing the responsibility of training the police onto people of color has not really made substantial changes to how their communities are policed. Structural changes need to be made alongside the training for it to be impactful. These are sentiments that the communities of color have been making for decades.
Nah, I'm good.
Police have been ranked already, and to be honest, that's not the issue here. The issue is that foster homes, and especially group homes, keep finding reasons to call them instead of somebody helping us when we are struggling.
This is everything. So stepping away from policing, the concern here is why the staff are calling the police on you so quickly and so frequently.
I'm in a group home now. They aren't just called for gang fights. They call the police for anything. And while we tiptoe around the issue, they call police on Black and brown youth more. I'm white, and I can see this clear as day.
So come through with the youth allyship. So notice how none of the other youth brought up race. I wouldn't say it's because they aren't wanting to, more so because whenever folks of color bring up race, they're treated as if it's a point, as if their points are invalid, as if they use race as an excuse. You may know it as the race card, but in reality, it's another mechanism used to detach from addressing racism. Shout out to this youth for calling it out, though. There are many ways that white people, especially youth, can use their own voices to ensure that youth of color aren't shut down during these types of heated dialogue.
They call the police on all youth, not just Black and brown ones.
So this is what the kids are calling being hashtag all lives matter. It's actually an example of colorblindness. Colorblindness isn't just saying things like, I don't see color. It's also taking the effects of race out of the social issues as if they impact everyone the same. While it is true that the police aren't just called on Black and brown youth in placements, ignoring disparities in arrest rates and incarceration makes Karen's comment kind of tone deaf and invalidating.
Man, Karen took the words right out of my mouth.
Okay, so you all saw what just happened there right now, right? There's nothing wrong with noting that over-policing impacts all foster youth, but this was an attempt to minimize the impact and disproportionate rate that is impacted youth of color. In a way, Youth Adult Partner 3, AKA Jordan, is weaponizing this youth's opinion.
All right. But I think besides the fact that we're bringing all this up, I think there's a lot of emotions. I believe we're all saying the same thing, but just in different ways.
So no, they actually aren't saying the same thing at all. Implying that they are seems harmless, but it's actually manipulative because it erases the very important part some of the youth are bringing up. Youth 1, 2, and 4 are explaining how over-policing impacts them and that group home staff need to be better trained to de-escalate crisis. They are saying that using the police is not the answer. Adult partners 1, 2, and 3, as well as Karen, believe that the police are an essential part of the solution.
Okay, but how are we going to keep youth and staff safe while we're keeping the youth out of jail?
So notice, we've come back to the same question multiple times, yet each time it's being asked by the partners. Youth are attempting to offer solutions and reasoning behind their thoughts, but they are consistently being shut down on the sly by people like Jordan. No one is telling the youth to shut up or that their opinions don't matter, but they are consistently ignoring many of the youth's points and how race is an important aspect of this conversation.
By not assuming that we are all dangerous, you're acting like kids don't fight, but y'all call the cops when your children are fighting in the home?
All right, so we have a really packed agenda today. And this conversation, I'm feeling like it's so important. Maybe we could save it for our next meeting so we can move on to some of the other topics we have to talk about today.
So again, this partner isn't telling the youth to shut up, yet is completely shutting down the conversation as some of the youth begin to make it more challenging. It's subtle, yet the message is still clear. Although this topic is important, we're not getting the responses we feel are helpful to the conversation, so we're not going to talk about it with you anymore.
I don't mind tabling it as long as we come back to it at some point.
I mean, I guess. Nothing on this agenda concerns me though, so.
Bruh, I'm just gonna say it. It feels like we're stepping away from this because nobody wants to be honest about the real issue.
Oh, David, I'm so sorry. That's not what we want to do. We just want to really take time and give this issue the space for reflection and discussion and get to some real solutions.
Why not do that right now? Like, we made plans to process, discuss, and talk about solutions today. Like right now. That's the whole part of us being in this meeting. So why not we discuss it like now? Not later, right now.
Because we have to figure out the balance between safety and preventing arrests. And I think both of these issues deserve more time than we can give for now.
Breathe, 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 breathe. So members have taken time out of their busy schedule to come and address their safety in group homes, and now the adult supporters, because
To be known, the main times I feel unsafe in my placement is with the staff and when the police are called. Y'all making it seem like it's us that's unsafe when the homes themselves be unsafe. Should I be calling the police on the staff members when they don't let me attend my visits? Oh, how about when a staff made me miss my hearing because it wasn't on a calendar? Because I feel unsafe when I'm not allowed to do the things I know I'm supposed to be able to do.
I don't know about y'all, but these are some legit questions. And it also speaks to the way power structures are set up. Many foster care agencies and group homes get to create their own guidelines for responding to crisis, but youth aren't always able to have their own process when they feel like they've been wronged or harmed. The Foster Youth Bill of Rights is a dope start, but you can't use something as a resource if you don't know it exists, or the processes to file complaints aren't helpful.
I think this is a hard conversation, and I'm glad we're finally having it. I've definitely experienced bad things with both other youth in my placement and have had issues with staff. Youth have to take responsibility for their actions too.
But wait, why is calling the police the only way to hold youth accountable?
It's not a race thing if you're trashing your group home and the police are called.
True, but it is if you only call the police when certain types of youth trash the home. It also is if there's only a certain type of youth you're placing in that home in the first place.
That's the consequences of your actions. I know because I no longer do the things like that, and because of this, I don't have to worry about the cops being called on me. This is multi-layered, so maybe we can dedicate another meeting to focus on just this topic.
Yeah, I really don't know about this, but I really want to hear what the audience has to say.
What are they adding or taking away from the conversation as a whole from the other members? Do I have any hand raises? Anybody like to come off mute?
When were the police ever called on you?
I've been 5150'd multiple times before.
And I'm sorry to hear that because I have too, but it's also not the same as being arrested and put in jail.
Hard to speak on this one because both alternatives truly suck. But the average stay on a 5150 is 72 hours. What's the average stay in juvenile detention?
All righty. Well, as you know, an adult partner here, I think we can move a few of the other pressing issue items to our next meeting and focus on this one today since it seems so important. I mean, I wanted to talk about a church camp opportunity and share that with you all. That was all fun, but it looks like y'all want to talk about this instead.
These conversations are hard, but super important. It's great this partner is advocating for this discussion to be continued. We'll have to work together to get to equity.
Well, I see we're already running out of time for our other agenda items. So we will go ahead and table this for right now. And we'll dedicate a full meeting in the future to this really important discussion. So youth, I want to thank you all for coming today and sharing such powerful personal stories and perspectives. We truly appreciate everything that you've brought into this space, and we will look forward to seeing you again at that next meeting. For right now, if you all want to go ahead and you can leave, we're going to go ahead, adult partners, we're going to go ahead and move on to foster parent training next.
And if we can give a hand clap to our actors, that is seen.
Also, it was very difficult to stay in character with Kate's mask.
I know, Kate, you were killing me. I love it.
I could not keep a straight face. I'm sorry, I couldn't.
And Jordan.